The confrontation between Yuji Itadori and Dabura is not just another fantasy matchup. It is a collision of two entities that exist at the very peak of their respective worlds, a battle whose outcome already feels disturbingly inevitable even before the first blow is thrown. With Chapter 17 of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo about to drop, Yuji's return to the forefront of the story seems almost guaranteed, making this the perfect moment to strip away hype, bias, and speculation, and break this fight down through pure, uncompromising power analysis, examining raw strength, speed, techniques, experience, and the terrifying implications of what happens when a monster who learned jujitsu in 6 months meets a being whose presence alone can flatten cities. Oh yeah, so we can keep interacting and making the anime storytelling world even more fun together. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and drop your thoughts in the comments to keep the vibe going. Alright guys, let's jump straight into the discussion. Let's go. The clash between Yuji Itadori and Dabura is a matchup whose outcome already feels heavily implied. In fact, from this perspective, the conclusion may have been decided long before the battle even begins. With Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo Chapter 17 set to release in just a matter of hours, the likelihood of Yuji returning to center stage is extremely high. Before that moment arrives, this is the perfect opportunity to dissect this confrontation through the most complete and focused power analysis yet, with full attention placed solely on Yuji and Dabura. Who holds a greater raw power? Who moves faster? Whose techniques dominate? And in the end, who remains standing? Every one of those questions will be addressed here. This breakdown may age into a masterclass of analysis, or it may look ridiculous after only 1 or 2 chapters. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes this discussion exciting. This is not theory crafting. This is not speculative storytelling. This is pure power scaling. We will examine every layer. Yuji's current level, Dabura's destructive threat, both fighters' peak potential, and the most realistic battle scenario if they were ever forced into direct conflict. To put it simply, and it has been said countless times, Yuji is a monster. During the Shinjuku conflict, Yuji gained mastery over 2 primary techniques: cleave and dismantle, collectively known as shrine, including the dormant furnace, Fuga Flames, technique that is yet to be fully displayed. Alongside this, he possesses blood manipulation. These 2 abilities rank within the top 5 most powerful techniques in Jujutsu history. Since roughly 80% of a sorcerer's potential is determined by their cursed technique, Yuji already stands in an abnormal tier by possessing both. This is precisely why Eurom acknowledged Yuji's potential as comparable to Sukuna, especially considering that Yuji carries a fragment of Sukuna's soul through their twin bond. Physically, Yuji transcends normal human limits. He is a Black Flash prodigy, the only character in the series capable of triggering Black Flash with near-intentional consistency. He holds a record for both total Black Flashes and consecutive Black Flashes in the entire story. His understanding of the soul has reached an extreme level. Yuji fully comprehends his own soul and can directly attack the soul of his opponent, a feat that remains exceptionally rare even within the Jujutsu world. His cursed energy reserves are immense. His control is refined. His output is brutal. And most remarkably, Yuji possesses the most efficient reverse curse technique among all major characters. After consuming his brothers, Yuji now possesses death painting physiology. Unlike Gojo, Yuta, or Sukuna, who must expend massive cursed energy to heal, Yuji simply converts cursed energy into blood. This makes his regeneration cheaper, faster, and significantly more effective than any other sorcerer. On top of all this, Yuji also possesses domain expansion. And all of this power exists in someone who became a sorcerer for only 6 months at the age of 15. Now, Yuji carries 68 additional years of experience, an immortal body, and remains in absolute physical prime. Gojo once stated that Yuji at 30 would surpass him. Therefore, a 68-year-old Yuji still in peak condition would naturally stand above both Gojo and Sukuna, entities that already exist on a completely separate plane of power. And then, Dabura is consistently portrayed as existing on the level of the Honored One. Across dialogue, narrative framing, and sheer visual destruction, he is repeatedly compared directly to Rhyme and Sukuna. When facing Mahoraga, Dabura flattened an entire city with negligible effort. In terms of raw destructive output, no character in Jujutsu Kaisen approaches him. Not even Gojo or Sukuna. Sukuna may be more technically lethal, but in terms of area of effect devastation, Dabura operates on the most extreme scale shown so far. His light technique, combined with an unnamed mysterious ability, turns him into pure calamity. There's a prevailing theory that he fuses these techniques, light and a so-called blank technique that increases mass and killing intent, though it remains unclear whether this fusion has already been shown or has yet to be revealed. If that power has not been fully displayed, then what remains could be truly insane. Now, here lies the decisive difference. Alien entities like Dabura appear to lack understanding of binding vows, while Yuji has mastered them completely. This grants Yuji a massive strategic advantage and flexibility in combat that Dabura simply does not possess. As for domain expansion, there is still no confirmation that Dabura has won, a critical unknown variable in this matchup. But one thing is already confirmed. Dabura possesses the third eye, and that alone changes everything. Right now, the biggest mystery surrounding this fight is the true nature of the third eye. Is it an ability exclusive only to the Remelian's race, or can all Sumerians who possess a third eye awaken it? One thing is already clear though. Once that eye awakens, just like we witnessed with Maru, the power increase is absolutely insane. The personality shifts into something far more violent, almost like a complete loss of restraint. If Dabura has access to the same state, and if this ability is not limited only to Remelians but applies to Sumerians in general, then Dabura's true combat level is far above what we saw during his battle with Mahoraga. Which means that entire fight never represented Dabura's real ceiling. That was not his full power. His speed alone is already on another level. When he repositioned alongside Mahoraga, even the surrounding debris hadn't begun to fall. The movement was that fast. His durability is just as absurd. Mahoraga landed 2 clean hits on him, and the result was identical to Sukuna's clash in Shibuya. No visible damage at all, not even scratches. Dabura treated the whole encounter like a game, tearing Mahoraga apart repeatedly without mercy. There's no exaggeration in calling him a being on the level of an honored one. Savage, overwhelming, and almost impossible to put down. Now, when it comes to how a fight between Dabura and Yuji would unfold, the early phase would likely look fairly balanced. But as time goes on, the advantage gradually shifts toward Yuji Itadori. Why? Because Dabura may never have fought someone on the same tier as an honored one before. On his home planet, he could easily be the single strongest existence. Meanwhile, Yuji has survived repeated life-or-death battles against Rhyme and Sukuna. That combat experience alone becomes a massive edge. In terms of techniques, the matchup is interesting. Dabura currently shows 2 cursed techniques. Yuji also has 2, cleave/dismantle and blood manipulation. If Dabura has already mastered the synergy between his techniques, then their flexibility is roughly even. But if Dabura is still hiding a third ability connected to his mass-killing intent, then both fighters would be sitting at nearly identical potential. Everything ultimately comes down to domain expansion. Does Dabura have one? If Sumerians never developed domain concepts or even basic countermeasures like simple domain, then Dabura has no true defense against Yuji's domain. That said, Yuji's domain wouldn't instantly kill him either. We've seen Sukuna trap Gojo inside a domain without cursed techniques, and Gojo still endured purely through physical resilience. His body was torn apart, but he remained standing. Since Dabura exists on the same tier as Gojo and Sukuna, he should be capable of surviving a domain's effects through raw durability, though he would suffer extreme damage. In pure physical stats, Yuji might have a slight edge. In raw destructive power, Dabura likely holds the advantage. Speed? Most likely equal. They would collide at the same brutal level. However, blood manipulation becomes Yuji's greatest strategic weapon. It grants him extraordinary flexibility, boosting his own strength, reinforcing muscles and reflexes, while also allowing mid-range and long-range offense. That adaptability gives Yuji far more tactical options throughout the fight. On top of that, Yuji can damage the soul itself. We don't know if Sumerians even understand the concept of the soul. If they don't, then Yuji's attacks become exponentially more lethal. Dabura's only real path to victory is if he fully awakens his third eye, or if he possesses something equivalent to a domain expansion, some unknown ability we haven't seen yet. Without that, Yuji's experience, tactics, and versatility slowly tip the battle in his favor. Even with a fully awakened third eye and a berserk transformation, it still probably wouldn't be enough to defeat Yuji. Unless Dabura truly has a domain. If that card exists, the fight instantly escalates into a monster-class duel. From a power scaling perspective, this would be an extremely close and brutal match. But in the end, Yuji most likely emerges victorious. His position in the overall hierarchy of power is simply on a different level. That said, the story probably won't give us a clean conclusion. Yuji and Dabura will clash, push each other to the brink, but the final outcome may be cut short. Some fans theorize that Yuji dies here, achieving a perfect ending. But narratively, that would be a disaster. Yuji finally enters the main battlefield, stands as the strongest, only to be killed a few chapters later by Dabura? That's not tragedy. That's a storytelling catastrophe. The timeline of the Modulo arc is simply too compressed to resolve such a monumental fight properly. The only way it ends quickly is if Yuji stands so far above Sukuna, Gojo, and Dabura that he overwhelms everything in moments. And honestly, based on everything we've seen, that scenario is still very much possible, because Yuji Itadori currently sits at the absolute peak of the power chain. Vav, that's really interesting, Nakama. Thank you so much for sticking with the story till the end. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the comment section below. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one.